something one of the advisors said this weekend, Cedric Richmond, he said, Republicans defunded the police by not supporting the American Rescue Plan. But how is it that is an argument to be made when the president never mentioned needing money for police to stop a crime wave when he was selling the American Rescue Plan?
Well, the president did mention that the American Rescue Plan, the state and local funding, something that was supported by the president, a lot of Democrats who supported and voted for the bill, could help ensure local cops were kept on the beat in communities across the country.
Democrats are set to take control of the U.S. Senate, House, and the White House.
This will go down as one of the most progressive administrations in American history.
God willing, everything is on the table.
You now can pass things without a filibuster threat.
Oh, you'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Welcome to the Ruthless Variety Program. You will rarely, if ever, hear more dishonest answer than that.
I mean, congratulations to Peter Doocy for being the journalist who actually did his job there, as he's pretty much become known as in that room. And for her to have the audacity to say, actually, it's Republicans who support defund the police. This is like Big Brother-esque. Are they trying to force amnesia on the American public and forget the year of the left pushing defund the police on the American people?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not big on using the phrase gaslighting.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever seen a greater example of gaslighting than this. It's just absolutely absurd. And that the Democrats are looking at the same poll numbers that we've been mentioning here on the Variety program, that they are now trying to spin it as, it's actually Republicans that want to defund the police, not us. Right. Not us. Not the headlines you've been reading for 2 years. And from all of our, people in Congress, it's actually the Republicans that are trying to do it.
And it's factually incorrect.
Incorrect.
Right? So what she's saying is, no, all these police departments, they need the additional funding from this boondoggle that the Biden administration put forward because the police departments were underfunded.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay, well, let's take a look around. Let's take a look. Minneapolis, they defunded their police.
Yep. Minneapolis City Council, of course, you knew it was Democrats there, voted to defund the police. That's fact.
Dude, AOC and de Blasio got in a fight over who wanted to defund the police more.
How much?
In New York.
So in every major metropolitan area in this country that is controlled exclusively by progressive Democrats, they've either outright defunded, reduced, or had a full-throated debate about defunding their police departments amidst a crime wave. And now they would have us believe that the Democrats are the ones who are attempting to fund police?
Up. Yeah, they're just standing up for the boys in blue.
Oh, my God.
Oakland City Council voted to defund the police, stripping more than $17 million from that department. And then here's the results. Here's the thing that you have to look at is, so number one, it was the Dems who were calling on the police to be defunded. Number two, they actually voted for it. This is not like an opinion. This is not like, some nebulous reason I'm coming up for. There's actual record of these votes going down. And now look at the results. So Minneapolis, year-to-date homicides are just more than double in 2021 compared to 2020.
I mean, the thing is, you don't have to go far. You don't need us to dredge up every headline and talk about how they've defunded the police or they've tried to defund the police. It is mainstreamed into the Democratic Party.
Right.
If you ask your average lawmaker on Capitol Hill right now, walk into the House of Representatives, ask a progressive lawmaker, do you think that police budgets are inflated? They will say absolutely. They will say absolutely. But yet now you have a president of the United States, because he knows it's a problem for them, is trying to pretend like somehow this is a Republican issue?
You've got a crime wave going on in major cities across the U.S. They've seen the polling, and the problem is that the left is basically run by a bunch of rich, liberal, coastal folks who come up with these crazy ideas like, oh, yes, maybe we should defund the police. You go into actual neighborhoods that are suffering through crime, the folks there want more police. Right. They don't want it defunded.
Well, it's a perfect example of this. We already saw in the New York mayor's race, right? Where, you had, the progressive liberals in these havens in Manhattan or whatever, or Brooklyn, voting for, the super progressive candidates for mayor. But then you've got, the former cop You know, up by 10 points.
And that's within a Democratic electorate.
And who's voting for him? Older African-American voters.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly, because these rich, white, progressive, coastal idiots have appropriated their ideas to everybody else and pretended like it's a cultural revolution.
They've got a doorman at their building. They don't care if there's no police around, you know?
It's just incredible.
It's incredible. And look, we're going to play Dem or Journo today.
Lovely.
And we're going to remind the libs who hate listening to this podcast what they were saying over the last 2 years about defund the police. But what else do we have on the program today?
Man, first of all, we got an incredible guest. This guy, for starters, I didn't know much about him, right? But it turns out the dude ultimately led the Green Berets in the search for Bo Bergdahl, and he talks about it, right? He talks about it and gives us like his view. It's Representative Mike Waltz. And this is a badass if you've ever seen a badass. This guy not only was a Green Beret, he's the only Green Beret in Congress. He also worked in a civilian capacity, advised secretaries of defense. He was a counterterrorism advisor to Dick Cheney, which is how you know you're a badass, right? If you're
Smug's smiling, he's so happy to hear that.
I mean, I've been waiting for this interview. Like, this guy has definitely seen some shit.
Yeah. No, it's a great interview. I think you guys will love that. I have one question off the top before we get going. Duncan.
Yes.
Are we getting the bikinis or not?
Oh my God, here we go. So what Holmes is referring to is the request now that we make a Ruthless bikini available in the store.
There's been a lot of requests.
Look, it's the summer. I get it. We're going to get it. It's going to take a little bit of time. It's going to have to be designed. It doesn't come like out of the box on the store.
You're going to design
I'm going to have to make a request.
Are you going to design them?
The design team there is going to do the job, which is amazing. We've gotten that much support that like now we can get them to be like,
dude,
okay.
And the hats are dropping now. There's people been tweeting out photos of the hats.
I think I'm gonna grab one of those.
We designed with the team at Teespring. Fantastic.
They're great looking stuff, and we've really appreciated people tweeting out their photos when their merch arrives because man, those things look great.
Yeah, keep it coming.
Yeah, and follow the Instagram account. It's Ruthless Pod.
Oh yeah, we're actually trying here.
Yeah, we're gonna try.
We're gonna put our back into it.
Intern Kelly, she's fantastic.
Wonderful.
She's gonna be getting a bunch of content up there. So keep posting photos of you and your Ruthless merch, and we'll try to get it on the Instagram.
What's the URL for the merch?
It is store.ruthlesspodcast.com.
Excellent.
And it's like basically the only way to be cool this summer. So
pretty much,
like buy that stuff, and that's awesome. Anyway, the other thing we talked about in terms of a few business items to clear up, the other thing we talked about last Friday on the special episode was that we were going to entertain questions from people who posted 5-star reviews of the pot. So I looked back. And I had a couple that I thought were terrific. I know that you had a look at a couple that you thought were terrific. One from Joe Uliana from Pennsylvania. He says, the very best variety program. I'd happen to agree. He said, a consistently great variety program. King of the Hill should be in network TV. I agree.
Yeah.
Why doesn't Hollywood Hen get some cool intro music for her segments? That's a great question, Joe.
Very good question. You know what? I think Duncan.
You're just going to throw it to me.
Duncan can answer that.
More asks of me.
Well, I'm just saying. I think it's unfair and perhaps maybe sexist.
Wow.
You could definitely drop a Hollywood Hen intro.
First, dragging your feet on the bikini. Second, acing the only woman out of her own intro music.
I will make intro music for Hollywood Hen. I'm thinking something with like maybe some like shutters, like the cameras
like
going
the
off.
paparazzi.
Yeah,
I
think I can do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's great. You got one?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, look, I'm going to read this one just because I know if I don't read it, Smug probably will read it. So I'm just going to title is The Best Program on the Interwebs. My question: when and where will there be the first annual Ruthless charity golf tournament? Also, where's the banana hammocks?
Incredible. What an
Seriously,
ass.
seriously, though, keep up the good fight, guys. Sitting down with a drink or a cigar and this podcast at the end of the day, end of a long day at work, has become one of the highlights of my week.
Who's
That's from Mr. Whizzle.
Oh, Mr. Whizzle.
That's
Mr.
excellent.
Whizzle.
Honestly, I fully support the idea. Charity golf tournament, that'd be great.
That would be fantastic.
I love the idea. We should definitely try to figure out how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, look, we've got the studio now. We got a YouTube. We're getting professional, fellas.
Yeah, it's big time.
This is a real thing.
I love that idea. On the banana hammocks,
I'm less bullish.
let's see how the bikini sells.
Let's slow the roll on the hammock.
Yeah, let's slow the roll on the hammock.
I know why you're doing that. I mean, you're the model for the hammock.
I'm not getting in the hammock. Unbelievable.
Speaking of triggering, we've got a follow-up. So this is more crazy colleges. Last time we told you about Brandeis University saying that trigger warning is triggering, like the phrase itself.
Yeah.
And now,
picnic. Remember picnic?
Oh, that's right. And now it's gotten even more bonkers, I guess. So Cornell University is offering an anatomy class that explores, quote, the connection between the cosmos and the idea of racial blackness.
I think it's an astronomy class, Smug.
Yeah. So I guess astronomy is racist now.
The stars, space is racist.
And this is the real kicker. This is what got me is the class is co-taught. Okay, an astronomy class by an astronomer and a professor of comparative literature.
That makes sense.
This is like a glimpse into the future. Like,
it is. It's like you can't have people teaching expertise. You have to have the expertise and then somebody in to tell it why the expertise is racist.
Totally. It's the same reason we've been already told that math class is racist. My theory 100% holds, man. This is yet again, this is coastal elite liberals who are like, my fail son can't get into a university. We got to remove the SATs. We got to remove any kind of a requirement possible, except for me sending a letter being like, hey, I will pay this much to get junior into your college.
I'll tell you what, I'd like the opportunity to sit in on a college course and just like as they start teaching me being able to stand up and object and say, actually, this is the way it works, which is kind of what they have going on here, right?
It's what is a professor of comparative literature doing in a science class?
I don't know. I mean, dude, look, higher education has lost its damn mind.
So this is my new favorite thing. I mentioned it with Brandeis. The endowment for Cornell is $6.9 billion.
Tax them.
Nice.
Tax them.
Yeah.
At a high level too. I'm not talking about just like a skim off the top.
I know.
I want deep cuts here.
Yeah.
I think we should tax them and see if we could bend that old cost curve of college. And if we can't bend it, go back for a little more.
That's a good point.
How about that?
That's a good point.
Well, it does beg the question. If you got a $6 billion endowment, why are you charging students $50,000 a pop to attend per year, right? And then all of a sudden look at the federal government and be like, we got to subsidize these things. Costs are just saddling students. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like $6.2 billion worth of costs?
It's time to tax the endowments.
These universities turn around, they're like, that's a YP, that's a you problem, not a me problem.
My brother, who went to Cornell and is very much a higher education guy, is going to be furious at this segment. He doesn't listen, but he would be furious at this segment. It still stands. They should tax it.
Look, I have nothing against higher education. I went to college, But I mean, if we're going to have this conversation about the cost of college, maybe we should look about where those costs end up.
Well, speaking of monopolies, we've got Brian Williams over here from MSNBC. I'm still stunned he's even allowed on the news. But he's suggesting that Fox News be removed from military bases. It's pretty obvious the reason for this. Like, you look at the way ratings have been just, like, plummeting for, like, all the left-wing networks, which I now consider NBC to be absolutely left-wing as heck. CNN's numbers are like, what's his name? Jake Tapper show's down like 77%.
Yeah.
Stelter's is down. Like, people have stopped tuning into this, right? And now, what else do they have to do? They're like, wait a minute, we just got to remove the competition.
Yeah, I love it. It's like they're the drunk at the bar swinging wild at 2 a.m.
Yeah,
right. Like their ratings are in the toilet. And the only way that they think they can claw their way back is to take out the competition.
Well, the funny thing is, it's like aiming at Fox News here. Right. Well, first of all, it's a hell of a position to take that you ought to deny content to American troops serving overseas.
Yeah.
Right. That's a hell of a position. But then, secondly, to act like Fox News is somehow out of the mainstream. The only people that are out of the mainstream here is MSNBC and CNN. I mean, absolutely crazy. If you were to go back to like Walter Cronkite days and do a comparative, I wish there was somebody alive from that who hadn't gone absolutely bonkers like Dan Rather or whatever, that could say, like, actually, guys, in terms of the shift in what you all are covering, it's not Fox News.
Yeah, I wonder what Walter Cronkite would think about Chris Cuomo during the height of the pandemic, dancing around with a Q-tip with his brother, the governor, on, who was doing a horrible job at the time. Like, that's not journalism. That's a shame. That should be a scandal.
These idiots have created an entirely separate reality for idiots. They really have. All right. I want to get right to the infrastructure issue because a lot of talk has been going on about this bipartisan, quote unquote, bipartisan infrastructure deal. That at the end of last week, it looked as though there was at least a handful of Republicans and Democrats that agreed, and the White House was trying to help agree with it, that they ought to get together and do something that's on infrastructure, right? Not human infrastructure, as liberals have been talking about.
Like
but
roads and bridges.
Yeah, like actual, as we've come to understand,
what
infrastructure.
Right.
Right. And so they come to some kind of a deal, and immediately then, Biden comes out and issues a veto threat, essentially. He was there ostensibly to support this process, but he issues basically a veto threat saying only if it's paired with an entirely partisan Democratic, they call it a reconciliation bill. Basically, the only thing that means in terms of your ears that you need to know about it is that they can be done entirely with Democrats.
Right. It's the left-wing crap that they can't get through any other process.
Right. All the massive tax increases on every breathing American that they've been talking about, that's what they're talking. And that they want that to pass first.
Yeah.
In order to deal with this bipartisan thing.
It's just absurd.
Right? But then, like, he finds out within hours, of course there's no bipartisanship if that's your prerequisite. So every Republican bails on that. He spends the entire weekend trying to walk it back, saying, oh, no, I'll sign whatever you send me. Pelosi, meanwhile, comes out and goes, no, what he said the first time was where it was at. And then you have Sunday shows filled with Democrats who can't answer the question. Right? So these people literally, they can fuck up a 2-car parade.
Yeah.
Like, these people are the worst. Let me just rewind the track. The Biden administration has managed to pass one consequential bill on a totally partisan basis that the likes of which was supported by 90-plus Republican senators, not once but twice in the previous Congress and President Trump. They managed to make that entirely partisan. Infrastructure, something is totally bipartisan, they've managed to make totally partisan. And they then have the audacity to try to act as though it's anyone else's fault that they fucked up this entire negotiation.
Yeah, I've noticed that in some of the media coverage now, we're recording this Monday night, is now somehow this is Mitch McConnell's fault. It's Mitch McConnell's job to get 10 votes for Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden on the infrastructure plan.
This is the headline. And I don't mind. I don't think McConnell would mind it either. But this is the headline in Politico. McConnell tries to derail Democratic infrastructure strategy.
Joe Biden did it. Joe Biden literally tried to derail it.
They cannot get it done.
Dude.
I mean, the proposal, if you remember, was a $4 trillion proposal that came out that was rife with tax increases that would ruin our economy.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get any Democrats, basically, or Republicans, obviously, to support it. And then so they have to turn to these bipartisan talks to get something done, and then immediately blow that up, and then somehow this is somebody else's fault?
I mean, that's the thing is, so like they had it like on the 1 yard line, right? They were right there, and then Biden comes out and he says, hell no, I won't sign that, out of nowhere. And like his aides are like, what the hell? Like, did Biden, I don't know how this happened. Did he like wander out of the White House in a robe and just like shout this on a hot mic, and then his aides have to run and be like,
right.
Oh, okay, Grandpa, we've got your pudding inside.
Holmes,
He wasn't serious, guys.
I'm wondering what your take is on that. Like, what's going on? Is Pelosi pulling the strings here and got him out over his skis? Or
yeah, so I mean, so the way that this works is everybody works in concert behind the scenes when you're trying to put these deals together. Pelosi knows she has an incredibly thin House majority.
Right.
And she's balancing the idea that she's probably not going to be able to pull a ton of Republicans over no matter what, right? So she basically needs to unify her conference, and that means a bunch of progressives that aren't going to vote for anything unless it ruins the American economy, right? That's their prerequisite,
Right.
Unless we do away with capitalism in America, we're not supporting a damn thing. And so she's on the horn with Biden, undoubtedly, saying you got to help me with this second thing. Right. We need the reconciliation package. I need your endorsement on that. You should say that you're not going to. So it all makes sense that he comes out and says it. Meanwhile, everybody that he's been negotiating with is like, huh?
Yeah.
You just pulled the rug out from all of us. Like this was supposed to be a bipartisan deal. And they're like, oh, shit, yeah. But they never even thought that through. Like everybody gave shit to the Trump administration interaction with Congress. This is like 100 times more incompetent.
Yeah.
100 times. Like nobody.
Well, and the coverage of it is incompetent. Last time I checked, we have a Democratic president. We have a Democratic Senate. We have a Democratic House. And Politico's article is about how Mitch McConnell, will he derail it? Will the people with unified government in Washington get this across the finish line isn't the question. It's Mitch McConnell's going to ruin it for us.
And I think Holmes brings up a huge point is this administration has been so incompetent. They have nothing to show for their time there. They will always say, oh, we passed the American Recovery Plan. Do you know what the heart of the American Recovery Plan is? It's Trump's proposal of sending out $2,000. And they couldn't even get that right.
They couldn't even get that right.
But here's the thing is they're incompetent because they're allowed to fail and suffer no consequences because the media will write this story about how, well, actually, it's Mitch McConnell's fault.
Well, dude, so Politico, again, we've been ragging on them a lot lately because they've totally changed the way that they cover. They're no longer an industry publication. It's like sort of a leftist activist deal. Their Politico PM, it's like an afternoon newsletter that they send out that's supposed to update people on like where legislation is going, right? What happened during the day, essentially. Yeah. The title of it is McConnell Plays Skunk at the Infrastructure Party.
It's just incredible.
As if Biden didn't say what he said.
Dude, Biden made all those Republicans working on the bipartisan bill walk the plank and do a presser at the White House, and then comes out and reneges on the thing and says, no, we also need the partisan thing through reconciliation. Imagine being a Republican senator and thinking you can take any negotiation in good faith at this point.
I mean, I haven't talked to McConnell about this, but knowing him as well as I know, I bet he is laughing his ass off.
He's probably like, I told you so.
I bet he is laughing his ass because this is precisely what his prediction of this would be all along.
They are who we thought they were.
Are who we
exactly.
Thought they were.
That's exactly right.
Denny Green.
Yep.
May you rest in peace.
Legend. Absolute legend.
Absolutely. All right. Guys, Summer of Violence.
I love the argument. Is it Roaring '20s or is it Summer Violence? Again, I'm sticking with Summer Violence.
It's true. I hate to say you were right, but you were right.
So kind of the argument for the other side. So the Roaring '20s argument, the Journal had this nice little article where they said the coronavirus pandemic plunged Americans into recession. But instead of emerging poorer, many came out ahead. Here's the little asterisk, Americans with higher income jobs, white collar people who could work from home. Yeah, because they saved money by not commuting or eating out when there was a pandemic. But it's what you also end up with is the people who aren't in that lucky situation. Yep. You've got the people who are restaurant servers, house cleaners, other low wage jobs. They haven't been able to come out
come out
clean.
Ahead. Right.
So looking at these statistics, it's like, okay, it says that U.S. households added $13.5 trillion in wealth last year. Well, that's 100% from the people who were like, hey guys, it's so bad to be on Zoom. I have to order in my meals. This is so tough. And those are the people who are like, yes, we have to stay closed. We absolutely have to stay closed. It's because they don't care. They don't care at all. They don't care if every restaurant closes down as long as they can still find someone Uber Eats.
Right.
They don't have to work at a restaurant. They're not counting on that income.
It's like when we talked about Stephanie Rule a few episodes ago. Remember that? And she's talking about, these small business owners who don't want to pay their hourly workers more. Come on the program and defend yourself. And it's like, how much DoorDash you think Stephanie Rule orders and right now?
But so a good component to this, as we've talked a lot about on the program, is that the government just continuing to overfund unemployment in a lot of ways has given perverse incentives to an awful lot of people. And it turns out there's this MSN article that said 1 in 5 adults is neither working nor studying, right? And so what that means is basically nobody's even looking for a job, or at least a large number of people are not looking for a job, nor trying to train for a job at this point, because they're just continuing to subsist, right, on what the government has incentivized over the last year, right?
I mean, that is something. 1 in 5 young adults no longer
so listen to some of these
studying.
Listen to some of these stats, I'll quote. In the first 3 months of the year, about 3.8 million Americans aged 20 to 24 were not in employment, education, or training. That's up 740,000 or 24% from the year before many of them lost their jobs or deferred college enrollment because of the campus shutdowns. That seems problematic.
That's a huge problem. Huge problem. For the first time in history, the jobless rate for teenagers in May was lower than the rate for workers aged 20 to 24.
I mean, guys, it's such an obvious problem. Again, you keep coming back to this. The economy, you don't have to actually be an economist. You don't need to know what derivatives are. You don't have to actually understand what makes sort of complex economic theory work to understand that when you pay people not to work, they're not going to work. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, it's what the progressives have wanted, okay? Because if they can't get the $15 minimum wage, federal minimum wage passed, this is their way of backdooring that, right? If you keep sending checks to people and you make it impossible for businesses to compete with the check, eventually they believe, well, all these businesses are going to have to raise, the income of their hourly employees.
They actually just go bankrupt out of business, right? As you've seen, and everyone listening to this pod, everybody listening to the program understands because they're looking around their own neighborhoods and seeing how that's played out. So, but the Wall Street Journal actually wrote what I think is the definitive proof in what we're saying is that Americans are leaving unemployment rolls more quickly in states that cut off the federal benefits.
Right. Incentives matter. This is like the basic. This is basic economics.
It's not arguable.
No.
No.
And then so on the other hand, so you're seeing that the states who cut those benefits, people start, gaining employment. Who'd have thought? But on the other side, this blew my mind. San Francisco run homeless encampments cost $60,000 a tent. They cost $60,000. So here,
$60,000 a tent.
A tent. So the city's 6, quote, safe sleeping villages provide homeless people with tents, 3 meals a day, security, and washrooms. They're paying $60,000.
Wait, who's paying this?
Well, the taxpayers, of course.
Unbelievable.
But $60,000 a tent.
This is definitive proof. Everything we've talked about so far on the program is definitive proof in the failures of liberalism.
Yeah.
Definitive proof.
Dude, half the people on Capitol Hill who listen to this podcast don't make $60,000 a year.
Right. Oh my gosh. It's just these people are so dishonest, huh?
They are so dishonest.
Meanwhile, you've got this crew of progressives, and I know we have a nuanced, interesting thought on this, who still do not want to believe that the pandemic is over. Right? I caught this over the weekend, this Wajahat Ali tweet. And this is so good because it just encapsulates everything you want. He says, I feel America has forgotten we're still in the middle of a pandemic that has killed more than 600,000 people, and there's a deadly Delta Plus strain, and our kids are still not vaccinated. Sigh.
Like, what's it going to take?
And hold on, he goes on, he does it like more. He says, I see packed restaurants and people inside stores and malls, and their kids aren't even wearing masks. I feel I'm in a horror movie.
Oh, man.
Oh my God.
So here's the thing. Don't tell him.
Okay.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Don't tell him.
I get it. What I'm wondering, though, is how... So we went from Delta... now it's Delta Plus?
Oh, yeah. We're going to...
When do we get to, like, Delta First Class COVID?
Amazing. I love that
just
take.
Like absolute the best strain of COVID.
If you just went out right now on MSNBC and said that you have reliable information that there's a Delta Plus economy comfort, strain that's going on,
You're going on TV.
I guarantee you that
Immediately.
there's going to be a bunch of people locking up and triple masking tonight.
But I mean, like, this is the thing is, so I think this explains a lot of the failures among the Dem governors and a lot of the success among a lot of Republican governors, namely DeSantis, where he focused on where the problem is. The problem is elderly population, folks who are very susceptible to dying from COVID, and that's where he focuses the attention on getting these folks vaccinated, and got attacked for it, by the way. Meanwhile, these people are like, until everyone is wearing a mask everywhere, we're not going to be okay. When you see the rates of infection among children and how little it impacts them compared to, like, the elderly population, like, what are they after? Do they want forever lockdown?
Yes, because it accomplishes their ideological goal.
Right. What I really love about this, because it's Wajahat Ali, is this is the same guy who sat on a Don Lemon segment with Rick Wilson.
Oh yeah,
making fun of Trump people, saying how stupid they are and they don't understand the world. And this guy is entirely against basic science.
Basic science. I mean, the actual science here is that Pfizer, Moderna, and I think almost all the vaccines that we're talking about at this point have been proven to protect against coronavirus for years, including Delta plus economy, all the things that we're talking about here. And they may not even need the boosters and all the discussions that we're talking about that. Like, that's the science.
Right.
That's the science that these people are not listening to. They just want people to go back into their homes, be told when to work. They'll send them an allowance every month. They'll tell them who can work, who can't work, whose kids can go to school, whose kids can't go to school, pay off their preferred constituencies, while the rest of us just sort of lay in ruin and watch the government dictate to us what our lives should be like.
Again, it comes back to the issue of where their focus is. So you've got skyrocketing murder rates. Portland, it's up 800%, right? Minneapolis, up 56%. Philadelphia, up 40%. People are being killed due to this, like, crime wave, but they're worried. Their focus is on, we got to bring back masks for kids.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had an interesting, I forget where this poll was from, but there was I think it was Gallup. There was a Gallup poll that showed, it basically asked Republicans and Democrats if they thought that the pandemic was over, and like 57% of Republicans thought that the pandemic was largely over. 4% of Democrats.
Four.
Don't tell them. Don't tell them.
This actually goes perfectly into what I wanted to get into. The coming red wave.
Yes.
We see it building. The first thing I want to get into is this great little factoid we got from some polling. Biden's issue approval in swing congressional districts. It's basically all underwater. Economy and jobs, 45% approve, 52% disapprove. Helping the middle class, 44% approve, 53% disapprove. Immigration / the border with Mexico, 36% approve, 60% disapprove. Relations with China, 37% approve, 52% disapprove. Looking like a red wave is building.
Well, that's the thing, because all of these libs sort of have this coping mechanism where they look at national polling that's largely encompassed by overrepresentation of coastal urban elites, right? So like in very blue, densely populated areas, you can basically outweigh the rest of the country. Too bad, I'm sorry, we actually live in a republic where the middle of the country gets a say in what the policy is for the entire country. So if you break it like they did here, you break it into the swing districts and the places where majorities are made and lost, Biden's not doing so hot.
Right.
Pretty bad, actually.
Pretty bad.
Who
would have thunk?
And they're always, the funny thing is that the alternate reality is so pronounced with these libs, with their information flow, with the entirety of institutions in America, whether it's Hollywood, entertainment, the news media, higher education. They are shocked. They're going to be shocked when they get wiped out in November 22.
And so,
shocked.
Here's some more polling. This is from Texas. This is a UT poll. 57% of Texas voters, including nearly 9 in 10 Republicans, and 47% of Hispanic voters disapprove of Joe Biden's handling of border security and immigration. You know, maybe that's because he came out and what did he say? All Latinx people should be afraid of Latinx should be like, maybe stop calling them Latinx to begin with.
I mean, it's
like in all the polling you see, it's like only 1% of Latino population is okay with Latinx, and 99% are like, stop calling us Latinx.
Yeah, and that's just white liberals who identify as Latinx themselves.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
But that's a perfect example of how insulated and idiotic the White House is, in that we had a full-throated conversation months ago about how Latino by Democrat Latino voters who are saying, please, for the love of God, stop calling us Latinx. Nobody in the Latino community identifies as Latinx. And then these guys feel the necessity for the president of the United States to go out and refer to Hispanic Americans
and how crazy
as Latinx.
He was like, all Latinx people are scared of getting deported. It's like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about? That is so offensive. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. It's incredible, the small universe of white coastal liberals that our president of the United States chooses to talk to. And it's like, I mean, the Democrats, their whole spin on this is like, Republicans are obsessed with these cultural issues.
Yeah, we're obsessed.
We're obsessed with stuff. It's CRT this, it's Mr. Potato Head that. And it's like, nah. Look at these numbers. These basic pocketbook issues that are extremely important to the security of this country, and Biden's underwater across the board in swing districts.
This is not like a bait. This is everybody's telling you exactly what it is that they feel. They just don't care.
Dude, and they know it. Kamala wouldn't have gone to the border, albeit El Paso.
Yeah,
but she
1,000 miles away from the crisis.
But
literally.
she wouldn't have gone to the border if they didn't actually know the truth.
That's True. It.
But they gotta go on TV and get the clips for Primetime Maddo where they say Latinx. and they're like that meme of the dog with the fire around them in the house saying this is fine. Right? Because there's some Democratic pollsters out there that are pretty smart that know that this is a problem.
And they're constantly raising their hand, by the way. They stop sort of advising their client behind closed doors, and they're like putting it out into the press. Hey, guys, we got a huge problem.
Right. The alarm's going off. But Joe Biden's asleep.
You know what? Don't tell them.
Don't tell them.
Don't tell them. Have them all sit in their homes, triple mask, not making dinner reservations, and not driving to work. My commute's terrific.
Fantastic.
Speaking of, Dem operatives passing talking points to journos, we got a game, folks.
Let's do it.
Oh, Dem or journo?
Yes.
Crowd favorite. Let's get right into it.
Well, so we're going to do this episode of the game on, defund the police, abolish the police. I think it's useful to remind these Democrats and journalists their position on defund the police and abolish the police, from the last year.
And it's important because you can see they saw the polling, and now they're trying to just like gaslight America into thinking
we were the ones who wanted it.
Republicans want to defund the police. You can see it. The talking points went out. They're pushing back hard because they know, the rampant crime that the Dems supported with their votes to defund the police. They know it's a problem.
So, now that we have the new studio, we actually recorded a better quality version
like an HD.
of the song for Dem or Journo. Let's go to that right now.
Dem or Journo, Dem or Journo, Dem or Journo, nobody knows.
Melodic.
It sounds
Beautiful.
good.
Sounds so good.
Well, we also made it a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
I know that was
I thought part of the charm was the fact that it went on 2 stanzas too long. But I like it. I think that from a professional standpoint, this is an improvement.
I think it's good. All right. So, I'm going to read 4 statements, 3 of which are from the media. 1 is from a Democratic operative. And then Holmes and Spug have to guess who is the Dem operative.
Okay.
Statement number 1. It's not a slogan, but a policy demand. This is on defund the police. Just as a reminder.
Okay.
Statement number 2. Does this spending make the country safer than its peers? No.
Wow.
Okay.
Statement number 3. But what does defund the police actually mean? And is abolish the police different? In practice, its meaning is far more nuanced and complex than any glib dismissal of all police and law enforcement. This is fun. This is fun. I can't wait to read all their explainers about how it's actually our fault.
Yep. They're coming.
These people are so dishonest.
This is incredible.
Shameless.
Okay.
And number 4. Would defunding police lead to an uptick in violent crimes? Defunding police on a large scale has never been done before, so it's tough to say.
This is a difficult
Oh
one.
my God, this is tough.
Could I get statement 1 again, please?
It's not a slogan, but a policy demand.
Okay.
I need number 2 again.
Does this spending make the country safer than its peers? No.
I think I got mine.
This is the same media who's going to now spend the next week saying, well, actually, Republicans want to defund the police.
Shameless.
And can I get 4 again?
Would defunding police lead to an uptick in violent crimes? Defunding police on a large scale hasn't been done before, so it's tough to say.
Okay. Okay.
I got mine.
You do?
I will look away. I will secretly tell Duncan which one I believe is the Dem operative.
Okay, I'm looking away.
Duncan, this is my guess.
Okay.
That's the operative. Already.
All right, let's work through this a little bit. So I think that the uptick in violent crimes, the number 4, I think that's a classic Journo explainer on why we're not like
That was my
why
feeling.
we shouldn't be concerned about it.
Yep. 'Cause they always try to. The thing is that when they get these talking points with like the obvious things, they try to gaslight by being like, "Oh well, nobody knows."
Yeah, nobody
Yeah,
knows.
exactly. They're like, "Yeah, no clue."
Are they going to write an explainer now about how great it was Republicans defunded the police, since that's the new reality? Of course not.
Of course not.
Like I'd love to see. Like I'm shocked that it wasn't a take that. Like, well, if Joe Biden nuked all gun owners, would that be a bad thing? Huh? Hasn't been tried before. We don't know.
All right, so can I get number 3 one more time?
But what does defund the police actually mean? And is abolish the police different? In practice, its meaning is far more nuanced and complex than a glib dismissal of all police and law enforcement.
So here's the thing. That's going to be a Journo. It should be an operative. That's going to be a Journo because, again, they're trying to explain why you shouldn't be concerned.
That's the thing is, I thought that was Journo because it's very clearly just trying to launder a Dem talking point.
Yeah. That's exactly what that is. It's like where Democratic operatives fail and where the media is like,
Here, I got this.
Yeah, no, I got it. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of this. I'll clean this up. Where's my mop and bucket? So I'm gonna put that in the Journal. So then I get, it's between 1 and 2. I'm guessing. Does the slogan make it safer than its peers? It's a little unclear exactly what we're talking about. The number 1, it's not a slogan but a policy demand. I think that's what progressives said. I think they basically spent the summer of 2020 saying exactly that. So I'm saying number 1 is the Dem operative.
That's my guess. That felt like something that could have come straight from like Rashida Tlaib or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are right.
Yes.
You guys are right.
God, we're getting good at this.
Outstanding work.
You're good. That's from Ilan Omar.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
There we
You know
go.
the best part about that statement? It was her actually dunking on Barack Obama.
Wow. What a find.
He said,
Noted conservative.
noted conservative Barack Obama said, you lose people with snappy slogans like defund the police.
Oh, she's
And
like,
she comes
"Nuh-uh."
over the top being like, it is not a slogan. We actually don't want police in our neighborhoods.
But now it's Republicans who defunded the
Right.
police.
That is
Incredible.
awesome.
Listen, I got to say hats off to the selection committee.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
goodness, those were
This is
4 doozies.
Excellent
Good
picks.
stuff.
Excellent picks.
Oh, I love it. Can we get the playing of the music one more time, just because I like it?
Let's do it.
Dem or Journo, dem or Journo, dem or Journo, nobody knows.
All right, so let's get to this interview. Mike Waltz, great American, no matter what. The service that he's had to this country is incredible. I think you'll find his comments very insightful. I want to welcome to the program Congressman Mike Waltz. We have not had the formal chance of meeting before, but I've heard a lot of great things, and I'm really excited to have you on the program. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So you've been in Congress since you were elected in 2018, but your background is in the military. In fact, I think it's the case that you're the only Green Beret in Congress. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. There have been, by our count, 4 SEALs. Only 1 Green Beret, so I just tell them it takes 4 of them to equal 1 of us, and we could call it a day, right?
I bet they really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course they do, and I fully agree with me. And we've also verified, I'm pretty sure, the only member of Congress still jumping out of airplanes. I'm still going in the National Guard as a colonel.
So you're still jumping out of airplanes and the full mess, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Still doing the weekend drills and the annual training. I could tell you about it later once, but really had the most amazing jump of my life since I've been in Congress, and that was jumping over Normandy for the 75th anniversary of D-Day with a 92-year-old paratrooper that hadn't jumped in 75 years and jumped with us. It was over St. Mary Glees, out of the original World War II plane that led the invasion fleet. It was awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And just by the way, just not to dive into it, but if you haven't gone to Normandy, everybody add it to your bucket list. The French there, people there were incredible. Not like the ones in Paris, the ones in Normandy. It's kind of like comparing, I don't know, North Florida to San Francisco, right? But huge banners, massive signs and banners. We love you, America. Thank you for our freedom. Welcome to our liberators. You would have thought D-Day had happened like last year, not 75 years ago. It was so amazing and special. And to do it with a 92-year-old paratrooper. And I asked him on the ground, I said, how was that? And he said, hell of a lot better than last time I jumped getting shot at by the Germans. I mean, he had a blast. It was really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's the military background, and just really proud to have served.
So one of the things I want to pick up on, because you had last week made some news in a hearing. I think this stems in large part because you, as a member of the military, have had a lot of people reach out, current members of the military, expressing concern about things like critical race theory and how it's coming up basically in the military. We've heard Tom Cotton say the same thing, and I think in many ways they look to guys like you as outlets to be able to get the story out and discuss their concerns. And so you did that, and it didn't sound like it was really well taken.
Well, but to your point, that's one of the reasons I ran for office. We're at a record low number of veterans in the Congress. In the 1970s, it was 75% of the House and the Senate where vets had served. You know what it is today? It's sitting at 18%.
Wow.
Record low in our nation's history. Why does that matter? It's not so much understanding, necessarily veterans issues or foreign policy or military issues. It's the ethos we bring, right? It's that, in the foxhole, all that matters is country, is mission, is getting the job done, and taking care of your brothers and sisters, your left and your right. And that's what, to go to the hearing, I had a number of cadets, families, parents reaching out to me. And one that jumped out in particular was a seminar that was taught titled Dealing with Whiteness and White Rage, that over 100 cadets attended, apparently, taught by a woman, Dr. Carol Anderson, who teaches that white rage is a result of Black advancement, not 200 years, or 100 years ago, today. Right, and who called the Republican Party platform one of white supremacy. And so what I think General Milley and the Pentagon is missing is that, and I have a lot of respect for General Milley, by the way. We're fellow Green Berets. I actually think he's done a good job as chairman, and a lot of respect for what he brings to the table. But what I think he's missing in this regard is, one, this isn't a history lesson.
Right.
This isn't, right? He said, well, I've learned about communism and fascism. That doesn't make me a communist or fascist. No, this isn't. These instructors aren't teaching that this happened 100 years. They're teaching that this is happening today, that all white people are oppressors today. All Black people are oppressed today. And the other thing that I think he's missing is that they're teaching that our fundamental institutions, our Constitution, our courts, our political system, are established to maintain white oppression and are fundamentally evil, and therefore need to be resisted, and those institutions need to be torn down and rebuilt. And, Josh, that's one thing for some kid at Cal Berkeley to be taught. It's bad enough there, but one of these cadets will have their finger on the button, and they're learning this at a very impressionable age. And when it comes to civilian elected leadership oversight of our military, I have real problem with that. The thing the media left out was actually the Secretary of Defense agreed with me. He said, yeah, this goes too far. And it was only later that General Milley, kind of launched into his speech. But I think he's missing the boat in those fundamental regards.
Yeah, it's funny. I listened to General Milley's comments, and it seemed like he was directing them towards you. In fact, I think he even referenced as a Green Beret, a fellow Green Beret, right? But basically, the context to which he approached it was, well, we're teaching people things, and it's important to understand history and understand all it, which I thought, okay, but that's not what's happening here, right?
That's not, yeah. That's not what's happening. They're teaching that this is what's going on today. This is how you need to behave today, and that our institutions, our Constitution, and our other civilian institutions are evil, flawed, fundamentally racist, misogynist, colonialist, and need to be torn down today and going forward. The bottom line is, you can't fight racism, which I feel like I need to say, I believe is absolutely abhorrent. Extremism needs to be torn from the ranks at all levels of all types. But the answer that they are purporting is wrong. You don't fight racism with more racism. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to the other piece is that this isn't some GOP talking point. As we said, this is coming to us from families. This was brought to my attention by the family of a cadet.
Yeah, that's amazing. But you get the sense, because of General Milley's answer in particular, that they're really not taking these concerns all that seriously, right? Or at least not as seriously as some of the cadets have, by taking the extraordinary measure of reaching out to a congressman to actually express their concern.
Yeah, I think they really are conflating and confusing this with history lessons and with diversity training. As I said in the hearing, I 100% support a military that is diverse and that has equal opportunity for all Americans. We need that. That is the strength of our military, but they're conflating the issue of diversity in history classes with critical race theory and what it teaches about the United States of America today and going forward.
Just because I'm sort of unfamiliar with the military institutions and the academies and whatnot, is this kind of new? I mean, I don't remember sort of the social engineering aspects of curriculum being, you expect it again at Berkeley. You expect that, right?
Yeah. So they do walk a line between being a university academic institution and then a military academy, a leadership institute that teaches character and ethics, has an honor court and system, and how to be a future leader of the military. But I think at its core, our military's strength has been that the day you put that uniform on, you're all wearing the same uniform, you all have a shaved head, you are mission-based, merit-focused, and it doesn't matter in the foxhole whether you're black, white, or brown, or whether you were rich or poor before you came in. You're all the same, and that in following the guidance of and dictums of Martin Luther King, you're colorblind. And I can tell you for sure, the Chinese military and the terrorists that have shot at me really could care less about all of those things. It's just that you're American or you're not. And that's what our military needs to be focused on, period.
Yeah, no question about it. Let me ask you, just staying on this general topic in the military
Sure.
and foreign policy. Do you have any concerns about total withdrawal from Afghanistan? Do you have any concerns? It seems to me like we've sort of rushed past this debate in a lot of ways, although we've been in this war for such a long time. Consequences are pretty significant.
Look, I certainly get the frustration, long, hard, expensive, difficult, that in terms of the amount of time and blood and treasure we've spent there. And it's obviously been deeply personal to me. I've lost Green Berets in Afghanistan. But what the kind of just bring all the troops home, stop the endless wars advocates cannot articulate is, how do we keep a lid on terrorism going forward? Half the world's terrorist organizations still exist. The intelligence community is very clear that Al-Qaeda does intend to come roaring back in the wake of Taliban advancement, does intend to attack the West again if given the chance. And so what we're seeing play out is a repeat of what Obama did in Iraq, where he just yanked everybody out, didn't have a long-term plan. That led to the rise of ISIS, a caliphate the size of Indiana, attacks across Western Europe, inspired attacks in the United States. Pulse nightclub is right on the edge of my congressional district. So we've got to stay on offense. I want to fight forward, not back here. And I think a small presence focused on counterterrorism and continuing to build and train the Afghan military was absolutely appropriate and could be sustained. And if Biden's goal is to bring some troops home, well, we still have 30,000 in Germany, 50,000 in Japan, 30,000 in South Korea, right? I mean, we still have troops in the Sinai watching ships from a UN mission back in the 60s. And the other piece that I don't think is being discussed is that base that we have there, Bagram Air Base, is the only base in the world in a country that physically borders China, and it's sitting right on their back door. So you've got a base that's on the western flank of China, southern flank of Russia, eastern flank of Iran. So when we talk about great power competition, why would we give up that base right on their flank? And the Afghans absolutely want us to stay. The other piece that you've seen that's getting a lot of attention is taking care of our local allies, our interpreters.
Yeah.
I have personally sponsored some that have come here to the United States. These interpreters stood and fought with us, took bullets alongside us, and were critical not only to dealing with the local populace, but fighting alongside the Afghan army, the Afghan police. We had to be able to communicate with them to be able to do that. They've started businesses, they're thriving, but I also lost one who was found with American documentation on him at a Taliban checkpoint. He was taken back to his village and beheaded alongside his cousins and relatives. So these people are being hunted down as we speak. We have a moral obligation to get them out. Interestingly, then Senator Biden in 1975 voted against the evacuation of the South Vietnamese, said we had no moral obligation to support them. I hope he corrects his past sins and rights that wrong. It's not just it's just not a humanitarian thing to do. It's a strategic and national security right thing to do, because the military and the intelligence community is saying there is a decent chance we are going to have to go back.
Yeah.
And when we do, what local allies are we going to have? Who's going to trust us again if we have to go back and kick the snot out of Al-Qaeda yet again? And so I really, we're pounding the table, and it's bipartisan, bicameral, really across the board. That Pentagon has said they can do it. The government of Guam has said they're ready to accept so that we could take them to a third country and finish this processing and appropriate vetting. It's all sitting with Biden in the White House.
Well, I mean, what could possibly be the hesitation there? I mean,
yeah.
I don't understand. What could you say to a future potential ally if you've abandoned your interpreters at this point after a 20-year-long conflict in Afghanistan?
And it's not just them. It's not just they put their lives on the line. Like I said with my interpreter that I lost and his brothers and cousins, they put their entire families' lives on the line. I mean, the Taliban go after the whole family, the whole tribe to send a message. And so either Biden just doesn't think it's important, doesn't care, thinks we have no moral obligation, like he said with the South Vietnamese. I suspect the State Department thinks it will play into this narrative that the bottom is falling out as a result of their withdrawal policy, and therefore wants to pretend that everything will be fine. But we know that to not be the case. Anybody who served there knows that these people have a bullseye on their back right now.
Yeah. Well, one interesting experience you had in Afghanistan that I'm not sure everybody knows is that you led a special forces unit searching for Bo Bergdahl, which, as our audience might recall, is the gentleman who essentially went AWOL, right?
Right.
But put forces, including you, in grave danger trying to find him, and then was summarily greeted as a hero by President Obama after trading for his freedom. Give me some sense of that, your reaction.
Yeah, so my career has been somewhat interesting in that a lot of people don't realize both the Navy SEALs and U.S. Army Green Berets have reserve units, which means you got to have a day job. You got to stay in shape and be ready to go when called upon, but you got to have a day job. My day job actually is in the Bush administration as a civilian policy advisor under Secretaries Rumsfeld, then Gates, and then eventually as Vice President Cheney's counterterrorism advisor. And I have this fascinating back and forth of, there I was in the White House Situation Room, Mr. President, this should be the strategy. I did have to be one of the only idiots in Washington that actually had to go do it. Better make sure the strategy's right, because it was my butt on the line when I got mobilized to go out. And the fascinating part would then be coming back, taking off the uniform, put on the coat and tie again, go back in the White House, like, hey, boss, let me tell you what's really going on the ground. Let me tell you about ground truth. And in one of those tours, I literally left the White House as they were handing over the Obama administration, and then took command out on the Afghan-Pakistani border region. Here I am coming from the White House with all the strategy that I'd helped craft. I'm going to be the next damn Lawrence of Arabia and fix this thing. And Bo Bergdahl goes on his little desertion tour. And I can't tell you, everything stopped. We were ordered, General Stan McChrystal was in charge at the time, stop everything you're doing, supporting the Afghan election, going after the Taliban, you name, stop everything, every asset, air power, intelligence resource was going after and finding him, because we knew that he would be a huge propaganda victory for the Taliban. We also knew at the same time he had stacked up his gear. He had left his weapon behind, his body armor behind. He had emailed his dad denouncing America. And here's the thing that's never really come out. He didn't just desert. He actually defected. He went to the Taliban and was helping them initially until they got tired of him. Then started not treating him so nicely, started treating him pretty badly, and he tried to escape. And then that's when they really started treating him badly. But never in a million years did I think I would wake up one day and see President Obama with his parents in the Rose Garden, celebrating him as a hero. Susan Rice on the Sunday talk shows saying he served with honor and distinction. I was the first, actually, it was my first ever national TV appearance. I went on Brett Baer's show the next night and said, time out, America, not a hero, put up your ticker tape parade. Here's what actually happened. Men died during the search looking for him. And I later testified next to the parents of one of the lieutenants who died. We went into places we never would have gone without the preparation that we would have had. And what you can't prove is all of the people around the rest of the theater that didn't have the air support or the intelligence support or the other things that they needed, because it was all diverted. You can't necessarily prove that in court, but we all know what happened. And the mother of this lieutenant who died looking for him said, "Where's my White House ceremony? Where's my son's White House ceremony?" And it's just gut-wrenching. The other thing that was gut-wrenching is seeing him walk out of court a free man. Now, the military judicial system did reduce him to private, take all his benefits, but they gave him time served for the time he was in, held hostage by the Taliban. Wheeled out behind Bergdahl as he walked out a free man was a sergeant in a wheelchair that had been shot in the head during the search for him. No longer can speak and is paralyzed. So, again, why I ran for office. these types of decisions have real consequences. And the men and women downrange, both the ones who didn't come back and the ones who are out there now, deserve better from Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Well, we're sure glad you're there. Listen, Congressman, I got three big questions that all
right.
our audience listens to. Like this is like the high level stuff. We now know everything there is to know about foreign policy, but on to the important things.
Sure.
Your last meal on earth, sir, what would it be?
Oh man, I'm a native Floridian. I'd have to go. So let me tell you, I'd have to go with fish, but not just any fish. In Florida, there's these things called fish camps. And these aren't just seafood restaurants. They're basically, oftentimes, they're no more than a shack that is set up at the marinas where the fishing boats come in. So you see these guys carrying the fish right off the boat, right into the back of the kitchen. And it is the best, freshest fish you'll ever have. That's if I can plan it. I know, my last meal's coming. If
this is a planned one. This is a planned one.
Yeah, like if Armageddon hits and I'm just driving down the road, I hope I'm driving by a boiled peanut shack, right? Because if you never tried boiled peanuts, I mean, it's a true Southern Floridian delicacy. And man, it's easy to get addicted.
I love that. Okay, so boiled peanut. I've not had that, which I'm surprised you can still make in this allergic world, right?
You're gonna get some. I'm bringing some to you, and you can only get them on the side of the road.
Oh, nice.
Right? Like these folks just sitting by the side of the road. They make them fresh in their big crock pots, and you buy them in Ziploc bags by the pound.
I love it. Okay, I'm looking forward to that. All right, second question. Let's do this because I know usually it's if you weren't involved in politics, what would you be doing with your life? I think we kind of know with you. How about if you didn't get on this career path at all, right? You weren't in the military and you're not involved in politics. What would you want to be doing with your life?
I don't talk about it as much, but I'm a proud entrepreneur. I helped build a business with my partners from scratch, 3 of us in an attic. When I left as CEO to run for office, we were at 400 employees. We were on the Inc. 500 fastest growing company list 5 years in a row. Hardest thing I've ever done. But what I loved about it was that, you got that monthly scorecard, right? You knew, what you were doing was either winning or losing. In government, things can just kind of drift forever. But the innovation, the efficiency that drives is just, it was an incredible, special experience for me. But I had to weigh that with, I'm also a space nerd. And so I have a side goal of being the first Green Beret in space. So probably would have been an astronaut. So maybe the balance would be a space entrepreneur. How about that? We'll go mine the moon. Yeah.
Well, you got to talk to Bezos or Musk about getting into space nowadays, right? I mean, it seems like the private space travel is now the thing to do.
One of the most special things I've done in office was getting President Trump down to the SpaceX launch. Private sector rocket, American soil, Colonels Bob and Doug on the top of that thing. They're Marines and Air Force, but I don't give them too hard of a time. That was just, and watching that rocket go up was just awesome. And the whole country unified again behind. But look, the Chinese are challenging us up there in huge ways, and you can't be number 1 on Earth if you're number 2 in space. So we got to win this 21st century space race. And one of the things I'm most proud of was supporting the Space Force. We got to defend what we have up there.
I love it. Okay. All right. So third and final question.
All right.
What motivates Mike Waltz more, the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat?
Man, I have to say hardship motivates, right? I mean, I didn't make it through Ranger School the first time. I got recycled. Growing up, I remember one of the things seared in my mind growing up with a single mom on the poor side of town, having to sell my toys to go get grocery money at the flea market. But there's nothing like, and it's still gut wrenching to me to even talk about. There's just nothing like losing men in combat and having to face their families and men that I commanded, that I was responsible for. Josh, every day that I wake up and before I go into the Capitol, I look in the mirror, I look down at the bracelet that I wear for one of the Green Berets that I lost and tell myself to be worthy, right? And that's my message to all Americans. Be worthy. Comport yourself in a way that is worthy of their sacrifice for you and the thousands and thousands of men and women that are out there right now willing to die for you and die for that flag and everything this great country stands for. Be worthy.
What a great message anytime, but particularly at a time like this. Congressman, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. We've really enjoyed this. Come back soon.
All right. Will do. Ruthless. I love it.
So how about that story? How about the story of the Bo Bergdahl story?
That is something. I've been told he's seen some shit, but man, he's seen some shit.
Oh, man. I mean, first of all, the pressure of being Dick Cheney's counterterrorism advisor. Can you imagine? I bet this guy is the guy that spent all day with Dick Cheney.
And leading a battalion of Green Berets.
Yeah, and then leading a battalion. He's just he's a great American. I think it goes to show, we have talked about this a lot on this program, but we have provided another outlet for serious conservatives to talk in a serious way about the shit that they actually believe, rather than a recitation of January 6th or a recitation of the last 4 years and what they think about it. And you find out that these people have incredible depth. They're really like best in class bench on the Republican side that I've seen in 20 years of doing this. And guys like this just put an exclamation point on it every time you hand them the microphone.
It's fantastic.
And that's another fantastic episode. I said we wrap this one up. Outstanding work, gents. Another good one. Another banger in the can. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Thursday. Stay ruthless.